Welcome to Imperfect TV, where we embrace the messy, the real, and the beautifully unfinished. I'm Gemma Blythe, and this is your Monday morning guided journaling session, your space to breathe, reset, and begin the week with intention. Mondays can feel overwhelming, but they also hold a quiet power, a fresh start, a chance to realign with what truly matters. So, before the emails, the to-do lists, and the noise of the day take over, let's pause together. Take a deep breath in and out. Let's start this morning by checking in with ourselves. You don't have to get it perfect, just honest. Let your thoughts flow without judgment. This is your time, your space, your moment to be fully present with yourself. So grab your journal, settle in, and let's write. I'll be here with you, guiding you along the way. Because growth isn't about perfection, it's about showing up, even on the messy Mondays. Let's begin. Hello everybody, good morning beautiful souls, how are we all? So as you'll have probably seen from the title, we are going to learn about embracing emotional clarity and using journaling to discover the way to emotional clarity. So it's about tackling those difficult emotions, what suppressions have we got going on, how are we coping, how are we using those different coping mechanisms, either intentionally or unintentionally. What are we doing? So today is all about embracing and acknowledging the different thoughts and feelings we have and allowing ourselves to have those thoughts and feelings and knowing that they're normal, knowing that most trauma survivors or people with mental health difficulties have been through these different difficult emotions, and knowing that we aren't on our own because of that. So that's what we're going to learn. You're probably wondering why I'm talking about all this. Through working with different trauma survivors, different survivors full stop actually, I've learned that emotions after trauma become like a spin dryer. They become all over the place. And there might be thoughts people try and avoid, situations people might try and avoid, and different emotions that they are afraid to talk about. So throughout all of that, and my own personal trauma too, I've learned that we can cope with those difficult emotions. We can learn more about ourselves through coping with the different emotions. So that's where we're heading today. So I just wanted to share with you really some quick things about emotions that may come up after trauma. Of course, we know about the shame and the guilt that can come up. And we know how they can affect us in so many different ways. They can make us feel like we're unworthy and that we don't deserve love, respect, honesty, the same as everybody else. When in actual fact, that's not true. You are just as worthy. You are just as deserving of love. You are deserving of trust. And in return, you are deserving of honesty. So just let that sink in for a minute or two before we begin. What does that mean to you? What does that mean to know that you are deserving of trust and that you are deserving of honesty? Okay. So before we begin the journaling, I just want you to take a few moments to breathe, relax, reset. Make sure you have everything around you because this is going to get good. This is going to change your week, if not your life. Learning all these different things to do with your emotions, learning how to cope with them, learning how to manage, learning how you've put different coping mechanisms in, learning why you might have implemented certain coping mechanisms. Okay, so I'm just going to play you this quick video. Throughout it, I want you just to take some deep breaths in and out and let yourself just relax into the day. Here we go. Okay, people always ask me what I think recovery is. And my honest answer is that recovery, a large amount of it, comes down to self-belief. And where do you get self-belief from? Emotional clarity. Gaining that clarity over your emotions, learning how, when, why they crop up. That is the most crucial thing. Then you start to work on your self-belief and knowing that you deserve to heal and that you deserve to gain different habits, different positive coping mechanisms that you can stack on top of one another to reach a safe recovery. So, without further ado, this prompt gets you to think about your emotions and where you are at with them now. So I will pop this up on the screen now, as if by magic. So, what emotions do you feel most overwhelmed by when you think about your trauma? It's normal, as I've already said, for different emotions to take over. Maybe they're anger, disgust, shame, guilt, feeling unworthy, feeling like you could have done more. But what makes them feel overwhelming? And what impact do they have on your life? So I'm going to play that video again, and I'm going to give you just over a minute to write down what instantly comes into your mind. Don't forget, you can watch this later on YouTube as part of my journaling playlist. So please do head back if you're not sure and rewatch and let your brain come up with many more different things. It's up to you. There are no rules. This isn't about perfection. This is just about you gaining emotional clarity by using journaling. So I'll give you just over a minute and then we'll regroup, we'll talk, and then we'll move on to the next one. See you in a minute. As if by magic. Okay, so what impacts have your thoughts and emotions had on your life? Have they had a positive impact where you've been able to use your emotions, turn them into something else, and make your emotions something positive? Or have your emotions been something like building up like a wall in front of you against certain things? Have they prevented you from opportunities that you may have loved to do at one time? Or have they prevented you connecting with other people that you would have once loved connecting with? How have your emotions impacted you? How do they continue to impact you? What emotions do you feel most overwhelmed by? Is it the guilt, shame, anger, sadness, fear, particularly in certain situations? It can be difficult sometimes to process different emotions. So let's move on now to the next prompt that I have for you, which is: which emotions are the hardest for you to express or let out, and why do you think that is? So think about the emotions that you find difficult or almost triggering to open up to people about. And then question why. Why do you find those difficult to open up to people about? What's difficult about those certain emotions? So, again, I'm going to give you just over a minute and then we'll regroup and chat and see where we are all at. Okay, so which emotions came up for you as the hardest to express or let out? And why do you think that is? It's normal to experience so many difficult emotions, and it's normal to experience emotions at a high level as well when you've been through trauma. Other people might not understand, and I think that is a common phrase. I don't understand. So, when you express your emotions, you build a strong bond and a strong connection with somebody. They may not have been through what you've been through, but the more you share your emotions, the more you let people in, the more you build connection. So you might feel certain emotions that you might think are hard to share. And think about those. What makes it difficult for those emotions to surface? Does it bring up difficult thoughts for you? Is there a reason you've been suppressing those emotions? Is it because you're afraid that you'll come across as weak or your baggage to somebody? Because the right people that don't feel like you're any of that, they're out there. They are out there, and they are out there for you to build connection with, for you to build friendships with, for you to build relationships with. It's all about you letting your guard down, relaxing, even though that's so terrifying at the time. But I promise you that those connections are out there for you. And also, it's important to realize that our past emotions can come up through this. That is normal. It would be weird if they didn't. But we all have what's called an emotional landscape, which brings me on to the next prompt I've got for you this morning. Take that one down, bring this one up. Yay! So, how do feelings of shame, guilt, or self blame show up in your emotional landscape? Our emotional landscape, okay? Think, if you haven't heard this term before, think about it as hills of peaks and troughs, okay? So that's our landscape. Think of it as different emotions then that make you peak and then trough, peak and then trough. Think about it like that, because when you think about it like that, you start to think about your emotions in different ways. And, learn how your different emotions show up for you. So, how do feelings of shame, guilt, self-blame show up for you? Again, I will give you just over a minute to have a go at this. See what comes up for you. This isn't about being right or wrong, because there is no right and wrong. And see how deep your emotions go. See what happens when you take note of how certain emotions like shame, guilt, self-blame show up for you. Do you notice any patterns? Keep the idea of patterns in your mind as you journal. And here we go. Okay, so this prompt got you thinking more about your self-image, and the way that you think of yourself can impact on your life. It's just a case of how and why it impacts your life. It can impact it so much that you feel low confidence when you go and try to tackle anything that may be out of your comfort zone. Or you may feel a positive sense of self-image, which gets you to think about yourself in a different way. Think about yourself as more confident and easygoing and free to live, stuff like that. So how does that impact on your motivation? That's what this question gets you to think. So, what is your sense of self-image like at the moment? If I were to ask you to rate your sense of self from 1 to 10, 10 being the best, 1 being the worst, how is it at the moment on that scale? Think of it on that scale. Remember, there's no judgment. Nobody else can see what you're writing. Just think about where you are at the moment on that scale. Because wherever you are at now, it's your aim to beat that. It's your aim to be round about 5 or 6. Aim for a nice round number somewhere in the middle. Okay. So that's your sense of self-image, and that can change with different feelings. It can change with different emotions, different thoughts, different processes, and when you process your thoughts, all of that can change. So with shame, guilt, self-blame in mind, feelings that often come up are things that you should have acted differently. You don't feel worthy of healing or love, but you are worthy and you are willing to heal, which means that, guess what? You're worthy of healing. You are here at the moment because you want to heal. You want to improve your life. And you can. You really can. Step by step, minute by minute, hour by hour, day by day, month by month, year by year. You can improve where you are. Absolutely. And then what does that bring up with your sense of relationships, thoughts, self-talk? The way you talk to yourself is so important. Stop saying, I'm unworthy, and start saying, I am worthy. Because you are worthy. The more that we use that negative self-talk, the more we talk ourselves down. The more we talk ourselves out of experiencing new things, the more we close ourselves off and we don't show our true emotions. So that brings me on to the final journaling prompt on this Monday morning. So I will put this up on the screen as well. When you feel the most intense emotions, how do you cope or try to protect yourself from them? So this delves into your coping mechanisms that you may either be conscious of or unconscious of. Because everybody has different coping mechanisms. Everybody does different things to be able to cope with different situations and different emotions which arise through our day-to-day living. So I'm going to give you just over a minute again. Write whatever comes up for you and I will see you very, very soon. Okay. So, how do you cope when difficult emotions come up for you? Do you feel numb? Do you try and push them away? Do you try and distract yourself by either working too much or procrastinating? Does your motivation suffer? Do you fall on other bad habits just to give you something else to think about? Just to give your brain somewhere else to go? Just to numb them for a while? These are very important things to think, because the more that we think about patterns, especially at the start of recovery, the more then that we can put a name to those patterns and then put a reason to those patterns as to why they are there in our lives to start off with. And another thing is, do you avoid certain situations or people? It's normal to avoid putting yourself in certain situations which either remind you of the trauma or carry bad memories that may be linked even distantly to the traumas. It's so important that we don't almost suppress what we've been through. The idea of doing this is to express and acknowledge that we know what we've been through. Nobody else does. The more we gain emotional clarity over what we've been through and where we are in our lives, the more we build connection. The more we build connection, the less power our past experiences have upon us. So, as you think about that, these strategies that you've developed, both helpful and harmful. It can be useful to acknowledge both. Write both of them down and take a look at how the helpful strategies impact you and how the harmful ones impact you. And write down what you find the most helpful, what you would find the healthiest. And don't be afraid to come back to this video and take time out for you, because these can be part of a helpful, healthy strategy for you to allow yourself to feel whatever you need to feel in the moment and then be able to express that on paper. So I want to say a big thank you, first of all, but thank yourself first. Thank yourself for being here today, this morning, and taking the time out to acknowledge your thoughts and feelings and understand where you are at the moment, and know that you can get to emotional clarity, and know that that is an important part of your recovery. I am sending so much love. Keep joining me every Monday morning. Invite your friends. Share this and let your friends know where you are every Monday morning. And encourage them to come along and get to know their thoughts too. But join me next Monday when we'll be tackling a different topic and focusing more on our recovery together.